Charlie Williams is a resident of Grand Bay, Westfield, located in New Brunswick, Canada. He's well known for his miniature creations made of wood and their incredible detail. I was asked to do a video for Charlie a few years back that'd be sent with many of his pieces to a museum here in New Brunswick. I was absolutely amazed at the precision, time, and patience that each of these projects required. So when he said he had some new things to show, I immediately jumped on board. He will now explain some of his latest creations and show us his most ambitious project yet.
Okay, once again, we're going to show you some of my creations. I'm Charles Williams from Grand Bay, Westfield, New Brunswick, Canada. And this is a model of a off-road dump truck built by International Harvester. It's powered by a 16-cylinder Detroit engine. Has a toolbox here with a few wrenches in it in case you break something. And I'll let the dump down and stand it up so you can see some of the suspension parts underneath. It all works. Drive shafts all work when the wood isn't all swelled up. The wheels turn. The problem with working with wood, you can build it today and it'll be nice and limber and it'll work, but take it to a different environment and it tightens up. But however, it works. Over here we have a Case steam tractor. I don't know if that was on our last video or not. This tractor holds a record for plowing in Wisconsin. It was restored by a couple of gentlemen there, and it hauled 51 bottom plows at 250 feet. It plowed an acre in one pass. Steam powered, very, very big tractor. A man stand alongside of this, his shoulder would come probably to the center of the axle. Now, this is a Caterpillar scraper. It's got two engines, front and back. It has a hook on here. This goes over the back of a D8 tractor so he can pull them if he doesn't have enough traction in soft ground. It steers and it oscillates. And then he lowers this down when he wants to load it. When it's loaded, you lift it. Quite a big piece of machinery. And we have here a Manitou 700 crane. This is a big crane, capable of lifting big loads. It was an inspiration I got from a friend of mine. He worked around cranes all his life, and he gave me a picture of one of these things. I decided I'd build it. You can see the winches and the drums down inside there. And of course it swings. The tracks will slide in and out. They're made of separate pieces. And the way that these things are built in real life, they only go together one way. It took me a little while to figure out when I was sawing them out what was wrong. And this is a drive chain, gets its power through the transmission from underneath, and this drive train drives it. The sprockets are all on the outside. This crane can be dismantled and hauled by truck to a site. It can't, it's too big to move in one piece. Now over here we have a Mack, 1920 Mack truck. 400 cubic inch, 4-cylinder engine. Now the only means to start this thing would be to crank it. And you can imagine at 400 cubic inches what it would take manpower to crank that thing. The wheels were solid steel hubs with rubber vulcanized on the outside of them. You see the linkage and everything working in under there. It was chain drive, went to a differential, and it was chain drive to the rear wheels. It had brakes on the hubs God help you if you broke a chain. Now this mechanism on the back is a log hauler. I'm not too sure if this was built in the 1920s. There's not too many people around that can verify that story, but it came out in the early 30s. You lowered this down, you rolled a log on it, and you lifted this up, and a good operator could throw a log, if he get it on the power takeoff fast enough, it would throw a log over the top, and as the logs got higher, these extended up. It saved a lot of manpower. We have a steam engine here, single cylinder, the boiler, and it was capable of 150 horsepower. Steam is very powerful. It wouldn't turn very fast, probably maybe 500 RPMs to make that kind of power, used in sawmills and different applications. Now we have a sawmill. I got a picture in a book just showing a side view of this. If it was a hand drawing, and according to the story in the book, this technology came along probably in the mid 1800s, and it run by water. You'll see the carriage going there, very slow. This mechanism cranks it ahead. A vertical saw blade. And then when this went to its full travel, you put this mechanism in neutral. There's a winch on the back here. You crank it back. Manpower in those days was easy to come by. And then in the late 1800s, steam came along, and these things started to disappear. This water wheel is what you would call a breast wheel. The water comes down the chute, hits the wheel just a little above center. There's a box here that holds the water, so that traps it in each cup. So you got the weight of the water to give you more power, more torque. And you didn't need a big high dam to shoot the water over the top. The water that goes over its top it requires a lot of power, a lot of water to run that thing. But this is could be put in a shallow brook and a dam upstream. This is called a breast wheel. This is called an overshot if the water goes over. If the water comes through from the bottom in a brook, it's called an undershot. It was quite technology in those days. If you can think, the old fellows were really thinking. Probably you can see the gear work down there. Now we have over here, this is my last project, took me 8 months. We have a Kenworth tractor. We have a Caterpillar excavator on a 80-ton float. Now this would be quite heavy rigging, and you need this type of float to haul that. I'll show you the motor in. Steer mechanism all works. My wife helps me bend this wood. This is cedar cut down quite thin, and we use it in one of our special frying pans and steam it and bend it around the mold and let it dry, and it stays there. This is called a jeep. This distributes the weight evenly from here, there's a percentage goes on the tractor for traction, and then the rest goes here. It's a detachable gooseneck. You can take this apart and shorten it up to when it's not have a big load on it. You can go legal by shortening it. You can't haul it in full length without a load on it unless you shorten it up. So therefore, the back axle has to flip up like that. The excavator, I'll just lift it off to give you an idea how this thing would work. This would unlock, set aside. They would back this up on the float, taking these outriggers off. The outriggers would go inside here. These all go in to narrow it down so you can haul it without an escort. You put this back on, and then you back the tractor in under it again. I have it all blocked here so it won't roll off, but there it goes. Now you're legal to go down the highway without an escort because it's the proper width and proper length. I'll turn this over so you can get a view of the suspension. It's all air ride. I'll turn the truck over so you can see what's underneath here. The drive shaft works. All this is all authentic. This is all a little piece of wood in there, the holes drilled in it. That makes a universal joint, a slide on it. And it has air ride. The suspension, steering suspension, all works. So we put that all back together again. Took a few minutes now and again to figure out just how to make this work quite easily. And you put this all back out here. Put the outriggers on it. You put the wheel down here. Now, it'll also haul a off-road rock truck. Makes an impressive sight. A couple of friends of mine a few years ago, they worked for a dealership here in St. John. They sold one of these that was used. It was in Newfoundland. They sold it to a company here in St. John. And they couldn't transport it all assembled. They couldn't get it on the boat. And it was too wide to come on the train. So they drove it from Newfoundland to St. John, New Brunswick. Could only drive it when the sun was up and had to have an escort. So can you imagine rumbling down the road with that thing at might do about 25 or 30 miles an hour. Has a little buddy seat in the back there. Now we have a few wood turnings that I do. I think we've seen this house on the last show that we had. I have a coffee cup. You can put a mid-size Tim Hortons cup inside of that and not burn your fingers. It's made out of pieces of wood that's left over from other projects. And I have something here that's quite special. This wood is made from a dogwood tree. And at the time of the crucifixion, The dogwood tree was as big and as lofty as the oak and the elm that we see today. But a few days before the crucifixion, the Lord was looking at some of his beautiful creations, and he noticed that the dogwood tree was wilted and bowed and bent. And he said, "Why are you so sad, my beautiful creation?" The tree replied, "I am sad because I've been told that the wood of my branches shall be used to build the cross upon which your son Jesus shall be crucified." The Lord replied, "Fear not, because from this day forth your branches and the wood of your tree will not grow big enough or strong enough to support the weight of a man. And if you look at the blossom, you'll notice in the center a circle symbolizing the crown of thorns, and at the tip of each petal, which are only 4, you'll notice a red stain signifying the nail scars. And to this day, the dogwood tree does not grow big enough or strong enough to support the weight of a man. I got this wood from a friend of mine. She had a dogwood tree, and she said it got sick and died. And it didn't grow much bigger than 6 inches. And she gave me what was left, and I dried it, and I've made 2 or 3 of these, and I gave them to friends of mine. So it gives you something to think about. I hope that you enjoyed my tour. Until next time, may God bless.